Have you ever looked at your life and thought, if I had just known that a few years earlier, everything could have been different? I'm not talking about regret. I'm talking about revelation. Because the truth is, success, happiness, fulfillment, they're not random. They follow rules. And most of us were never taught those rules. We were taught to play it safe, to wait our turn, to shrink ourselves to fit someone else's version of normal. But what if the life you're meant to live, the one where you feel alive, free, powerful, that life is just 3 shifts away? I spent years chasing things, breaking things, doubting myself until I discovered 3 rules that I wish someone had shouted into my ears at 18, 25, 35. These aren't motivational slogans. They are battle-tested truths. And today, I'm going to give them to you, not as theory, but as tools. Because if you hear what I'm about to share and actually use it, your future will not look like your past. It will look like your purpose. So lean in. Listen not just with your mind, but with your soul, because one idea, just one rule, can become the moment your life changes forever. Let me tell you something that took me way too long to understand. Your life doesn't rise to the level of your goals. It falls to the level of your standards. We all have dreams, visions, things we say we want, but if your standards are low, your results will always match them, period. That was a punch in the gut when I realized it, because I used to think, I want more, I deserve more, why isn't it happening? But wanting isn't enough. Wishing doesn't change anything. What changes your life is raising what you're no longer willing to accept. We don't get what we want, we get what we tolerate. Think about that for a second. What have you been tolerating? Mediocre relationships, a job that drains your soul, a body you're not proud of, self-talk that beats you down more than builds you up? Every area of your life is a mirror reflecting the standard you've set, not the one you say you have, the one you live by. And here's the truth. When you finally decide no more, when you say, I will not live like this anymore, that's when the shift happens. People think change takes time. It doesn't. What takes time is getting ready to change. The actual change, that's a decision. It's a moment, a line in the sand, a new standard that says, this is who I am now, and I don't go below this. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have all the answers. But you have to raise your standard from hoping to expecting, from maybe to must. When I made that shift in my life, when I decided to raise my emotional standard, my relationship standard, my financial standard, I started to attract a new reality, because your standard doesn't just change you. It changes what you attract. You stop settling. You stop negotiating with your excuses. You stop waiting for permission. And people feel it. They feel when you've decided, not when you're interested, not when you're kind of committed, but when you've burned the boats and said, this is who I am now. That energy, that certainty, that's what life responds to. So let me ask you right now, what area of your life needs a new standard? What are you done tolerating? Because until you raise that bar, you'll keep looping in the same patterns, having the same conversations with yourself, living in the same cycles. You want a new life? Set a new standard. Most people walk through life thinking their emotions are something that happens to them, like the weather. Like a storm that rolls in and takes over. One moment you're fine, the next you're frustrated, anxious, overwhelmed, and you think, well, that's just how I feel. But let me tell you something that'll change the game. Emotion is a choice. It's a habit. And if you don't learn to master it, it will master you. See, every emotion you experience is the result of your focus, your language, and your physiology. You change what you focus on, you change what you feel. You shift the words you use to describe your experience. You shift your entire emotional state. You move your body differently. You breathe differently. Your state transformed. It's not magic. It's mechanics. And once you understand that you can direct your emotions, not just endure them, you stop being a victim of your mood and start becoming the author of your life. Let's be honest. How many times have you let a bad moment become a bad hour become a bad day, all because of one thing that went sideways? The email, the traffic, the conversation that triggered something. But here's the truth. It's not what happened. It's the meaning you gave it. That's where all emotion lives. Meaning equals emotion. You change the meaning, you change the feeling. People say, I'm just a worrier, or I'm just angry all the time, like it's their identity, but it's not who you are. It's what you've practiced. You've practiced worry. You've practiced stress. You've practiced frustration. So often it feels automatic. But guess what? You can practice something new. You can wire in gratitude. You can wire in confidence. You can wire in peace. It takes awareness. It takes repetition, but it's possible and it's powerful. Now, I'm not telling you to suppress your emotions. I'm telling you to own them. Use them. Emotions are messengers. They're feedback, not commands. Anger tells you there's a boundary being crossed. Listen, but don't let it drive the car. Fear tells you to prepare, but don't let it paralyze you. Sadness means you care, but don't let it define you. You can feel something and still choose a different response. That's power. That's freedom. The second I realized that I could interrupt my own patterns, that I could feel stress rising and stop, shift my body, take a breath, ask a better question, I got control back. And when you have emotional control, you have energy. You have focus. You have leverage. Because when you live in a beautiful state, you make better decisions, you lead, you connect, you serve. That's where the real momentum in life comes from. Don't wait for peace. Don't wait for motivation. Create it. Train it. Choose it. There's a lie that too many people live by, the idea that our lives are shaped by our circumstances, that it's where we were born, how we were raised, what's happening around us that defines what's possible for us. But I'm here to tell you, your conditions do not determine your destiny. Your decisions do. Always have, always will. We all know someone who came from nothing and created an extraordinary life. And we also know people who had every advantage, great family, education, money, and they still feel stuck, lost, empty. Why? Because it's not about the resources you have. It's about the resourcefulness you choose, the decision to show up, to act, to move forward when it's hard. That's what changes everything. There's a moment in everyone's life where everything can pivot, but most people miss it. Not because it isn't there, but because they hesitate. They wait for certainty, they wait for clarity, they wait for permission. But life doesn't wait, opportunity doesn't wait. The people who create the life they want aren't the ones with all the answers, they're the ones who decide without them. They decide who they are, they decide what they will no longer settle for, and they back that decision with action. Immediate, uncomfortable, imperfect action. Every breakthrough I've ever had came from a decision, not a condition. A decision to leave, a decision to stay, a decision to love, a decision to change. And in that moment, something powerful happens. You move from living by reaction to living by intention. You stop being a passenger in your own story and grab the wheel. But here's the trap. We think big decisions come with big fanfare. They don't. They come quietly, in the silence, in the doubt, in that whisper that says, enough, or now. And you can ignore it, you can rationalize it away, but deep down, you know it's time. And if you don't act in that moment, you lose momentum. And momentum is everything. Because without it, even the best plans go nowhere. But with it, even the smallest step becomes massive progress. I get it. Making a decision is scary, especially when the path isn't clear. But let me ask you this. What's scarier? Making the wrong decision or staying stuck for another year, another 5, another decade? Because indecision is a decision. It's a decision to stay the same. And nothing changes until you choose differently. You already know what needs to be decided. You already know the move, the call, the shift. So stop waiting for the perfect time. It doesn't exist. Stop waiting for certainty. It never comes first. Decide now. One of the hardest truths I ever had to face, and one I see people wrestle with every single day, is this. You cannot grow into the next version of yourself while clinging to the old one. We all say we want growth, we want change, we want transformation, but we don't always realize that becoming something new means letting go of something familiar. And that's the part that scares people. Not because they don't want more, but because deep down, they're afraid of what they'll lose in the process. But here's the truth. Real growth doesn't come from adding more. It comes from releasing what no longer fits. You've got to let go of the stories you've been telling yourself. The story that says you're not ready. The story that says you're too broken, too late, too inexperienced. You've got to let go of the patterns you've rehearsed for years. Those unconscious habits that keep you looping in frustration. And sometimes you've got to let go of the people who only know how to relate to the old you. Because if you keep holding on to who you were, you'll never step into who you're becoming. There's this identity we build up over time. It feels safe. It feels known. Even if it's not serving us anymore, we hold on to it because at least it's familiar. But familiar doesn't equal fulfilling. Just because you've carried something for years doesn't mean you're supposed to carry it forever. And if you're not willing to drop it, if you're not willing to strip away the noise, the fear, the old labels, you'll never make room for what's next. You've got to grieve the old version of yourself. That version got you here, and that's beautiful, but it can't take you there. Every new chapter in your life will require a different you, a deeper you, a lighter you, a more aligned, more courageous, more intentional you, and that means pruning the parts that don't fit anymore. The lies, the masks, the excuses. It's not easy. I'm not saying it is. Letting go doesn't mean you didn't care. It doesn't mean you failed. It means you're strong enough to release what's no longer meant for you. It means you trust that something greater is waiting on the other side of your surrender. But you can't grab hold of the future if your fists are still clenched around the past. I've seen people change their lives in an instant, not because they found something new, but because they finally released what had been weighing them down. And suddenly, they could breathe, they could move, they could rise. You want to evolve? Then it's time to stop clutching what's comfortable and start choosing what's true. Let go to grow. One of the most powerful forces you can harness in your life is clarity. Clarity is not a luxury, it's a necessity. Without it, you drift, you second guess, you hesitate, you move, but you don't progress. You work harder and harder, but you're not fulfilled because deep down, you're not even sure what you're really working toward. And I've been there. You wake up every day doing more, pushing more, chasing more, but it's like running on a treadmill. Full effort, no direction. The reason so many people feel stuck isn't because they lack potential. It's because they lack precision. They've never taken the time to define what a meaningful life actually looks like to them. Not what their parents said, not what society sold them, not what looks good on paper, what they truly want. And when you don't know what you want, how can you build anything that lasts? How can you commit fully when even your target is blurry? Clarity creates power. When you know what matters, decisions get easier. You stop wasting energy on things that don't align with your mission. You stop saying yes to things that drain you. You stop trying to be everything to everyone and finally focus on what sets your soul on fire. That's when momentum starts to build, not from doing more, but from doing the right things with full intention. And clarity doesn't mean having every step figured out, doesn't mean perfection. It just means you know your why, you know the outcome you're after, and you're not afraid to say it out loud. You own it, you declare it, you bring it into the light. Because when you're vague, your results are vague. But when you're specific, you become a force. You start to act differently, speak differently, show up differently. I've seen people go from confused to unstoppable in a matter of days, not because they got smarter or richer, but because they got clear. They took the time to get honest. What do I want? What do I value? What am I no longer available for? And when that clarity locked in, everything around them began to shift. The right people showed up. The right opportunities opened up, because the world responds to someone who knows who they are and where they're going. But most people never pause long enough to get that clear. They're too busy, too distracted, too afraid to admit that the ladder they've been climbing is leaning against the wrong wall. But if you want to build a life on purpose, not by default, you got to slow down and ask the hard questions. You got to define success for yourself. You got to simplify, because clarity isn't about doing more. It's about doing less, but doing it with total alignment. When you get clear, you get dangerous in the best way.